This is getting out of hand. We gotta stop doing this.
Jesus said one of them fell like lightning. He saw Satan fall like lightning. He had instruments on the inside of him. He could sing better than everybody you know put together.
Instruments built into his body and sang better than anyone you know? Really? That's a myth.
That's a myth. That's a myth. That's a myth.
We've all heard it before. The story that before Satan became a fallen angel, he was in charge of the music or the choir in heaven or over the worship in heaven. There's only one problem. That's a myth. And not even like a little bit of a myth. That's completely made up. There's not a single verse in the Bible that suggests that Satan even knows how to sing, was ever in a choir, over a choir, hung out with a choir. That's just completely made up. So how did we get there though? Well, like most myths, it does come with like a itty bit of truth. And what we have here is an entire mythology built off of one bad mistranslation in English. Let's go ahead, head over to Ezekiel 28, verse 13, and find out where we're coming from. Verse 13 does say, "Thy workmanship of thy tabrets and thy pipes were prepared in thee the day thou was created." And people see that and they say, see, look, I told you Satan has pipes and tambourines built inside of him. And I'm like, slow down, because this verse has a lot of layers. Right, like episode 1, this is a prophecy to a king. Now, some scholars believe it's symbolic of a human ruler, and some say that it is actually talking about Satan. But either way, we have to understand that this is a prophetic language and is very poetic in nature. And I know you're thinking, but it said pipes are in him, so what's wrong? Let's get to the mistranslation, shall we? This whole mistranslation hangs on two words. And y'all know I don't know Hebrew, so I'm just going to butcher this whole thing with pride. You have Toph, which was translated timbers or tambourines, and Nekev, which was translated to pipes. Now let's talk about Toph. Toph is translated as tambourines or timbers in most cases, so it would make sense that the writers would translate it like that here. But I want us to consider another meaning. It could mean settings or engravings. Now, if we go back and look at the verse 13, it says you were in the Garden of Eden and every precious stone was thy covering. And then it begins to mention stones like diamond, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emerald, so on and so forth. And then thy tabrets or thy settings. Which one makes more sense? But then it really falls apart once we add the word pipes here, because that comes from the word Nekev or Nekev or however you say it. And that word literally means holes or sockets. It's what you would use to place jewelry. The verse is talking about jewels, not instruments, which makes complete sense because everything prior to that was just talking about different types of jewels, and then it says how they're set inside of them. That's why you see the error corrected in more modern translations like the English Standard Version, which says you were in Eden, the garden of God, and every precious stone was your covering. And then it begins to name the stones like onyx and jasper. And then it says, and crafted in gold were your settings and your engravings. So that one mistranslation led to an entire mythology, and it only happened in English. Prior to the English translation, the Bible was translated into Latin, the Vulgate, and it said your sockets were prepared. This aligns with the Hebrew. No pipes, no tambourines, no instruments. It's talking about the jewels. That's why early church fathers like Jerome and Augustine never taught that Satan had instruments inside of him or that he was over worship, because their Bibles literally never said that. And bad translations happen. Michelangelo literally sculpted an entire sculpture of Moses and then put horns on his head because their Bible translated it as saying his face was horned instead of shined from the glory of God. So in conclusion, Ezekiel 28 may or may not even be talking about Satan. There is zero evidence that he was in charge of a choir, in charge of worship, or even had the ability to sing. And it's definitely a mistranslation that he had pipes inside of him, but at least I get where people get that from. So next time someone tries to tell you Satan was the worship leader in heaven, kindly let them know that's a myth.